My name is Tori Rolak Smith. I am a program director in the Division of Equity for Excellence in STEM at the National Science Foundation, and I co-lead the implementation team for the Includes initiative, along with my colleague Elias Smith, who you will meet momentarily. It is our pleasure to welcome you here for this event this afternoon. But first, I'm over to our resident DJ, content expert, and all things great, Rebecca Valencius, who's going to take us into the first official part of our program.
So we are doing a little bit of a switch. I'm Andrea Venezia, and sorry, Tori, we did a little bit of switch because Rebecca's got a lot of tech responsibilities. So I said I will last minute take over for this. So hello, welcome. I'm so glad you referenced Joy, Tori, and we're just so excited to welcome you all into this network. I'm Andrea Venezia. I am the lead PI with SRI International for the Coordination Hub. So we want to start our connections by asking if you could share a little bit about yourselves. We'll have more ways to engage as we go longer into this hour together. To start, we'd love it if you could put your name, your affiliation, and a word to describe how you're feeling today. I'll confess that I'm someone who's always thinking about how can I merge two words into one and do like X-curious because I'm excited and curious. So if you want to make up a word because one word doesn't work, you want to use one word, we would just love to start the flow of engaging with you a little bit. So please jump into the Zoom and share a little bit about yourselves. Oh, eager. Thank you, Vanessa. And thanks to John for starting this. All right, ready. Thank you, Reverend Evans. Interested? All right. Oh, optimistic, ecstatic. I love seeing these words. This is great. It's always lovely to start with this positive energy. It's great to see all these new faces joining this group, familiar faces and new faces. All right, excited. A space for change. And thank you, Dr. El Sayed, for that. Yep. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. If there are more, keep them coming. And I will turn this back over to you, Tori, to introduce Dawn.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andrea. And I should issue the disclaimer that if I am ever looking away, in order to be able to both see the screen share as well as you all are actually over here. So where I look like I am not talking to you, this is the space where I'm feeling most engaged because that's where you're situated. I think somebody is going to mute. There we are. All right. So with that, let me take the pleasure of introducing you all to Dr. Dawn Millard, who is here to officially welcome you on behalf of the National Science Foundation. Dawn is the Deputy Assistant Director in our Directorate for Engineering, and he co-leads the design team for NSF's Eddie Bernice Johnson Includes initiative, and may or may not mention in his remarks that he has really been part of this initiative since it was a recommendation in a report and a thought that really needed to be explored and conceptualized. So we're really glad to have Dawn here to welcome you today, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Dawn.
Thank you, Tori. That was wonderful. I really appreciate it. I'm very happy is my vote of confidence here to be here with you today, and it's a pleasure and a true honor to be able to meet you all virtually, albeit hopefully someday in person, but it's a great opportunity for us to be able to get together and learn from each other. Includes is nothing else if not a true learning process, and it's been wonderful from the beginning, being able to see how things have morphed and how we've tried to be able to really take into consideration the feedback that we've gotten from you all, the community, to be able to actually try and pivot Includes when necessary, to be able to look at scaling activities that are successful, to be able to learn from the lessons that we've garnered from our projects, as well as some of the activities that we've undertaken as a collective group. So we're at a point now where we started off with design, development, launch pilots. We then were, I'll just say, prudent enough to be able to award a coordination hub to be able to keep our act together, and to be able to help foster the collaborations across the different communities that are practicing in terms of NSF includes, and really trying to be able to help us understand where we may need to be able to actually devote attention. We grew to be able to fund alliances, and that allowed us to be able to look at larger scale types of opportunities. And now what we're really looking at is an opportunity to be able to connect people. How do you actually create a network that is an active network, that's one where people engage in that network, and not just through going to a website, but actually create relationships? And we all know that, yes, funding matters, no doubt. You look to NSF to be able to support projects, and those projects helps us fund activities as well as people. But what really makes the network connected is the people in the network and the interactions that you all have as a group to be able to actually learn from each other. And what sustains things beyond that of the time of NSF funding is those of you with the passion in your hearts to really change the nature of how we actually create diverse communities and be able to provide a culture that's inclusive, that we offer in the nation, not just for STEM, but overall. It comes from the people. It comes from the people's commitment to this. And that's what sustains activities beyond that of NSF funding. So trying to be able to develop connections with the 2 network connector awards that we've made, as well as be able to support conferences that allow us to be able to take advantage of the knowledge and be able to do reimagining, to be able to really look at the types of pathways to STEM that we hope to be able to create and be able to foster. We're really looking forward to now having a full menu, if you will, of activities that allow us to be able to do things at local levels as well as national levels. And in the end, yes, NSF is going to be looked at for how do you actually change the culture of the nation. And it's through your work that we're looking for opportunities to be able to learn and be able to leverage those things in different geographic locations as well as within different communities of practice. So thank you to all of you for the work that you do and for the work you're going to do. And please stay in touch with us. And when I say that, what we want to know is, yes, we want those great stories that come from the work that you do. We want to know about those because we want to be able to try and adopt and adapt them in different locales, in different communities, in different environments. But at the same time, and here you're going to hear something from NSF that's a little different, we definitely want to know about what failed, because we don't want to invest your taxpayer dollars in areas that might not net us great value in the future. So this is one of those where you get points for telling us things that didn't work so that we're able to then focus on things that might have worked better. And so please stay in touch with your program officers, stay in touch with the coordination hub, and most of all, stay in touch with each other to be able to actually form this network of people that allows us to be able to create what we're hoping to be able to produce, which is an inclusive culture of our nation. So with that, I'm going to turn it back. Thank you all for your participation. Unfortunately, I've got to run to another meeting. I would rather stay here. Don't tell the other meeting that. And I hope to be able to meet you face to face soon. And thanks again for everything that you're doing. So Tori, back to you.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks for being here and thanks for that welcome. Well, there are a few disclaimers that I should put out there. One, I came to NSF after 14 years on the engineering faculty. And so I am very aware of the attempt to squeeze a lot into a small space. For me, that was a 15-week semester, and trying to give my students as much as I possibly could. And you will see that this meeting is only scheduled for 1 hour. And so in some ways, it's reminding me of those days as an engineering faculty member, trying to squeeze a lot into a really small space. What I hope I did well as a faculty member, and what I hope we'll do well today, is emphasizing what we used to call enduring concepts. So we certainly can't acclimate you to all things includes in the time and space that we have, but we do want to kind of hit the highlights today and then offer this as a first step. Well, technically your award letter was the first step, but as a next step to continued engagement over the life of your funded project and beyond, because as Don mentioned, this is about being part of a national network, an ecosystem even, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And so this is just one step in the direction of what we hope will be many interactions where you'll be able to learn more and contribute more as we move forward. So we're going to go directly into some information sharing from the NSF perspective first, and then we'll come to the Coordination Hub to share more as well. I will say this is another place where that disclaimer plays out, because I have been at NSF now for 6 years and I haven't gotten to give anyone a quiz in quite a while. So you will see that this presentation is set up to engage you. Humor me in my former professor life, and we have some poll questions integrated here. If you will please participate in those, we do want this to be interactive, as well as noting any questions that you might have. You can put those in the chat at any time. We'll look to answer questions as we go. But again, we realize that this is a relatively short time for a lot of information, and we will try to be as engaging and emphasizing only those enduring concepts to the extent possible, so that we can just seed opportunity to further engage in the future. All right, let's see if I can advance the slides. We're testing tech here. Worked earlier. Haha, it's working. Again, only now too well. So ignore that because we're not supposed to be there yet. I just clicked too many times. We wanted to congratulate you as we started on your award, and note that we are really excited, not just about having you joining us, but us joining you, because you're bringing a wealth of expertise to this network, and the outcomes of your work are going to greatly benefit the national network. And we want to, of course, be able to share the benefits of the network with you. So our first quiz comes early. Speaking of outcomes, Rebecca, if you could launch that first poll, and we will look at the primary outcomes of the Includes initiative. So you have 3 answer options. What are those primary outcomes? We'll take just a minute to receive your responses. These can be speed of thought answers. Rebecca, you can give me an idea, or maybe just stop the poll when we get enough participation, but you all are working toward outcomes in your individual projects. We want to see, at least at this early stage, what you think the 3 primary outcomes are for the Includes initiative as a whole.
Sure. And we have about 25 out of 37 participants responding. We're up to 25. One more minute to allow folks an opportunity to share. And
sounds good.
All right, so here we go.
All right, let's see where we landed. Okay, so we have the most votes for collaborative infrastructure, broadening participation, and systems change. Technically, you're not wrong, but you may be surprised to learn, and I will hopefully move forward only once. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm going to try not to go ahead. Or maybe it just doesn't want to advance for me at all anymore. Let's try this. There we are. Okay. Hopefully it is now engaging. You may be a bit surprised to learn that the answer is one of the other options, and we'll see which one in just a moment. To answer the question, we want to walk through the includes theory of change for just a moment. And we'll do it kind of step by step, just so that you can see how all of the pieces are fitting together to become this national network that we keep talking about. So let's see. There we are. Okay, Rebecca, I don't know. I think you're making the magic happen because it stopped working for me, despite working exceptionally well in our test run of this a little bit earlier. But so Don mentioned includes and how it all started. NSF responded really to a recommendation from the Committee on Equal Opportunities in Science and Engineering, or CEOS, as we call them. And that recommendation was to do something bold and new in the space of broadening participation that could really leverage structured and intentional partnerships to bring about lasting systemic change that would broaden participation in STEM in demonstrable ways at national levels of scale. And so NSF committed to soliciting proposals and conducting merit review, of course, making selections for awards and convening stakeholders to make this overarching goal a reality. And so with that, there were sort of three primary approaches to the work. One was building collaborative infrastructure. That was one of the answer options in more than one set of answers. Maybe we tried to throw you off intentionally. No, we actually didn't. But building collaborative infrastructure for systemic change to broaden participation in STEM at scale sounds like a mouthful, but it really is the primary approach to the includes theory of change. And moving forward from that, as individual projects join the network, as they're building collaborative infrastructure within their projects, one of the key goals for includes is to build a national network, to strengthen that national network, and to sustain the national network. And so fostering network formation, engagement, capacity building, and growth is another key component or key approach for includes, as is leveraging allied efforts. So when you talk about things as big as systems level change, it can't be left to an individual, certainly, not an individual campus, not even an individual project level effort, but it is important that we leverage allied efforts in this work in order to get where it is that we're trying to go. And so for each of those approaches, there's an outcome associated with it. You may be surprised to learn that these three are really the key outcomes for includes. So as projects build collaborative infrastructure, it allows for more effective collaboration. That's one of the primary outcomes for the includes initiative. As this network is formed and grows, it is expected to foster more connectivity because maximal impact can come from increased opportunities for connectivity. And then leveraging the allied efforts, bringing all of that together is expected to lead to what we really characterize as systems change. It's that expansion or adaptation of culture, policy, and practice, all for the purpose of broadening participation in STEM. And it's a variety of different players that come together to make that happen. So you may have been funded as a launch pilot. You may have expectations of growing into an alliance. You might be one of our first consortia, one of the first consortia in plural, yes. So this is the first year in FY23 that we offered Collaborative Change Consortia as an award type. And we have two that were awarded, and we're pleased, we have to look this way, that some of our PIs and project teams from the consortia are actually here on the call today. But wherever you find yourself, even if it is the allied efforts, those other NSF funded projects, other STEM funders, philanthropic efforts, industry partners, all of them are players in making, let's see. All right, there we are, it's advancing. In making this national network what it needs to be, we start with project level efforts to increase diversity and inclusion in STEM, and ultimately grow to the goal of increased diversity and inclusion in STEM at a national scale. And that really is the includes mission and vision, a workforce, a STEM workforce that mirrors the diversity of the nation's population. So now you know the official outcomes. Let's advance to our next quiz question. Oh no, and just like a bad professor, I gave you the answers because I clicked too many times. All right, let's launch that poll. Rebecca, I was looking at Vanessa and I almost said Vanessa. Rebecca, if you launch the poll, let's see who knows which of the following is not a key principle for the Includes initiative. Now there are resources available that could get you to this answer, but we won't use any outside resources for today. We'll just look at these three options listed here. And I don't see the poll coming up. Oh, there it is. So here we are. Select the one that is not a key principle for the Includes initiative.
And the answers are coming in a bit faster this time, Tori. We're up to 18 out of 38, 21, 22. Let's see. We are at 27. Any more takers? All right, it looks like we have the majority of our responses in, and I am sharing the results. You should all be able to see them.
All right, so these are the results. It's looking like we may have fared a little better this time, but for this answer and to continue with the presentation, I am actually going to do two things. One, Rebecca was kind enough to give me control of her screen just to get through that theory of change slide because of all the different animations. But I am going to give up my remote controls, Rebecca, so that you regain control of your screen. And also because I am turning things over now to Elias Smith to both introduce himself and take us into the next part of this presentation, which includes revealing the answer to that question.
All right, thank you, Tori. Hello, everybody. I am Elias Smith. I'm a program director here at NSF. My home is in the engineering directorate, but as Tori said at the beginning, I am co-lead with her for the implementation team for Includes. And then looking at this quiz, I love number 2, the building the grit and resilience in students, because going back to my professor days, that's really felt like what you were doing was to get them to hold on and to stay the course and what they were studying and moving forward. But I lost the poll on my screen, so I don't see what our top answers were. So I apologize for that. Oh, there we go. So it looks like 97% people got the correct answer on that, but building grit and resilience is not a key principle for the Includes initiative. So what I'll do on the next slide is I'll go through those key principles, which 2 of these on that poll are, but I'll go over the 4 that we have that are key principles. So they're shown here. First one is broadening participation in STEM. So this includes funded projects at all levels are collaborative efforts that demonstrate significant advances in the preparation and participation of groups that have been historically excluded and or underserved in STEM relative to reported baseline measures and at the unit of change of institutions and systems. The second principle is enabling sustainable change in systems. So funded projects take actionable steps to transform policies, practices, relationships, approaches, and or mindsets in order to make STEM cultures more inclusive and broaden participation in STEM. The third one on our list is scaling up outcomes in ways that advance equity. So funded projects will scale up proven and promising strategies in equitable ways. Includes understanding who is most impacted by the challenge being addressed in your project, partnering with the groups identified as beneficiaries of the project's work in the development and implementations of plans to scale, and ensuring that mechanisms for scale distribute power and resources across participating organizations. And the fourth principle on there is building collaborative infrastructure. So all funded projects must operationalize the 5 design elements of collaborative infrastructure in ways that catalyze and accelerate systemic change. And so we'll go on this slide, mentioned the collaborative infrastructure. So this is a slide illustrating our 5 design elements of the collaborative infrastructure. So collaborative infrastructure is a framework that guides collaboration for NSF's Eddie Bernice Johnson Includes initiative. Partnering organizations come together to, excuse me, to develop a shared goal or vision, mutually reinforce activities, objectives and measures to map progress, plans for continuous communication, and for expansion, sustainability, and scale. So includes projects build collaborative infrastructure into their approach, but the singular focus remains on demonstrating broadening participation in STEM as a result of the project's work. And so on here, you see that the 5 design elements of collaboration infrastructure are the shared vision. So partners working collaboratively to develop a strategic plan centered on a shared vision to effect systemic change. For partnerships, organizations and individuals partner and act collaboratively to accomplish project goals. I think collaborative is going to be the word I trip up on this entire presentation. I always have one. Goals and metrics. Evidence of progress is important to the Includes initiative. Relevant goals and measurable objectives and outcomes must be documented and communicated. For leadership and communication, funded projects should develop leadership capacity and distribute leadership within and among the partnering organizations. So that distributed leadership is an important aspect. Expansion, sustainability, and scale. So funded projects are expected to expand their networks, sustain key activities, and scale up equitably. And so keeping equity in mind as you are building your projects. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So we have a quiz. We'll keep it simple for this one. True or false? So Includes national network membership is restricted to Includes funded projects.
All right, Elias, it looks like folks are ready to participate in this poll. We're already at 51%, 20 people. The number is climbing. Let's give a few more seconds. We're at 24, looking for a few more answers from folks. 72%. Let's see if we can eke in a few more. Any takers? All right, we got one more. Here you go.
So we have 86% saying false, 14% saying true. So the correct answer for this question is, drum roll. All right, so false. So you do not have to be an NSF Includes funded or Includes national network. Membership is not restricted to Includes funded projects. So if you are broadening participation minded or anywhere in that space, you are open to join the network and take part in contributing knowledge and receiving the knowledge. Join the discussion. So going into the Includes national network, funded projects form the foundation of the national network, but the Includes investment includes developing and strengthening a national network that's comprised of NSF funded projects, federal agency partners, broadening participation researchers, practitioners, evaluators, and all who share the Includes vision of an inclusive STEM workforce. So the network is open to everybody who shares this goal of broadening participation in STEM. To give you an idea of what you're looking at on the map, each of the dots or stars are projects. And so 70 design and develop launch pilots laid a foundation for broadening participation, innovations, and large-scale partnerships. There are 29 planning grants represented here, which support efforts to build capacity and establish future centers. Research and effective systemic change focused on specific broadening participation challenge. Includes has also funded conferences, early concept grants for exploration or eager research supplements, and co-funded, excuse me, and co-funded awards that all contribute and connect to the national network. And as of fiscal year 23, we're also welcoming the first 2 collaborative change consortia. And then looking at the national network, another way to look at it is as an ecosystem. And so in green, you have a, well, let me pause this. My screen is fuzzy. Is anybody else's screen fuzzy?
It was happening for me too, and I thought it was just me. Thank you for saying that, Alexis.
Okay, no problem. I got a internet unstable and something on my end, so that's
So
usually my computer having issues.
One of the attendees said that their screen is clear. Maybe it's just us.
Just us. Well, we'll go with that. I will go through. So thinking of the national network as an ecosystem. So in green, you have a lot of the actors. So if you have, so of course, NSF includes Coordination Hub. You have the projects, the different funded projects. You have federal agencies. These are all groups that will contribute to the national network. And down towards the bottom, you have the evidence, the data, that are things that are contributed, like the tangible, more tangible products from that the players can put into the network and help build that community. And so everything feeds into this national network to build a connection, to work towards collaborative change and broadening participation. So I can't see any of the words on my screen with fuzzy, otherwise I would losing all of my notes to speak to this slide. So I'm going to stop there and pause for quick Q&A in case you guys have questions. I'm going to give you the opportunity to make comments or ask questions of us at this point.
Any questions from anyone, really? And Elias, I know you also are a former faculty member. So this is that point where we look at our watch and say, oh, we have very little class time left. So we'll
Yes.
speed through the rest of this just to make sure that we give the hub time for their presentation as well.
All right. So not seeing any questions, we can go on to the next slide. All right, so a true or false poll for you. NSF Research Performance Progress Reports, also known as the annual reports, are due each year on the anniversary of the award date. So true or false?
Responses are coming in. We're at 45%. Looking for a few more folks to weigh in here. Three responses and counting. Another few seconds. Looking for 1 or 2 more. All right, and we got it. There we go. Here you are.
So we are even split. So when I was a teacher, I would love those because I'm like, this is a teachable moment, everybody. So let's go to the next slide and we can talk about what this answer is. So talking about your annual reports, if you look at that first bullet point there, due 90 days prior to the end of the current budget period. So answer to that poll question was false. So when you looking for your annual reports, have a look out for guidance that we can send to you, and then also webinar guidance for preparing your annual reports. Failure to submit annual reports in a timely manner really stops us from doing any administrative processes or recommending proposals for approval. And it's not just for your projects that you might submit, but anything that where you are a co-PI will also stop those proposals or administrative actions from going forward. So early submission allows program directors time to really look at your annual report, give you feedback, and be able to get all the processes moving in a timely manner so that nobody gets held up. It's also key if your award was made as a continuing grant increment. So a lot of these annual reports need to be in before those next continuing grant increments can be released. And so in the interest of time, I will stop there and leave it at that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Elias. We have talked about the conceptual, we've talked about some of the practical. So please note that for include specifically, not only is it 90 days prior, but it may be even earlier, because in order to process those continuing grant increments that you may be due, you would need to have that submitted by July 1st. So just keep that in mind. And our time is up, but what we are going to do very quickly, if you'll go to the next slide, is just point out your program directors. They will be a primary source of information for you. So you see the different projects listed here. If you would like to get to know the projects a little bit better, this will be my plug for our special report to the nation 3. All of you are featured here. And in the digital version, it includes links to the abstracts for the projects to learn more. So we can place a link in the chat and you can use that, but please note who your program directors are. Some may be on the line today, many weren't able to join. It's a busy time at the foundation, but these next few slides, and you can continue to move forward in advancing these slides for the consortia, for the launch pilots. Please take note. Uh-oh, that one went a little fast, but again, it's the project information is in the special report to the nation 3. And thank you, Sharon, for putting that link in the chat. And you'll see here who your program director is. That is also included. You can move to, I think, is that the last one? Is there one more? Let's see, that is the last one. Oh, we went quickly through 2. Got it. Okay. So know your program director. And that brings us to our very last question. In your award letter that announced the fact that you've been funded by includes, you will also see your program director listed there. If you are looking for who that person is, and their email address is there. So in this last poll, as that is being launched, we promise your answers are anonymous, so you can actually tell the truth. True or false, I have read my includes award letter. Let's see where we stand. I don't know how many people will be quick to answer, hopefully everyone.
Right, we had a lot of takers right out of the gate, Tori. So
Nice.
looking at 40% of a response rate, looking for a few more. We're edging up close to 50. We can squeak in a couple more responses. I think some people are eager to share, and it is anonymous.
Absolutely. Don't be hesitant. We won't see who said what.
All right, it looks like we are about just over 50%. So here you go.
All right, let's see. Haha. Okay, so it's as expected. Some may not have, others may have, and perhaps because the award letter came to you by email, you may have missed the email, but please know that you can always access your award letter in research.gov along with other award information. And on the next slide, we just want to close with some information that is important in your award letter, in addition to introducing you to your program director and providing contact information for that person. I used to send things like this to my father all the time. So the comment in the chat is particularly hilarious. For those who may be watching the recording later, the question was posed in the chat because anyone else's mother asked to read theirs. So these award letters may be getting more airtime than we knew. But we also want you to pay attention to a line in your award letter that talks about the importance of reporting and other requests for information. And so this will be a great segue into the Coordination Hub's presentation. But there are really 3 groups from which you may receive requests. The Coordination Hub leads our shared measures effort. And so they may be asking questions about your shared measures, the data that you're collecting to demonstrate impact, the strategies that you're putting in place to bring about systemic change that will broaden participation in STEM. ORS Impact is the evaluator for the hub, but is a different entity. They evaluate the hub and the network, and they conduct a national network survey each year. So you will receive requests for information from ORS Impact. In addition, NSF has an evaluation contractor team, and they do program level evaluation for us. So they collect data and use your reports to glean data to demonstrate how successful we are at accomplishing our initiatives. They'll be conducting focus groups and surveys coming up to get more information. And so just know that that line in the award letter that says that we fully expect that you'll cooperate with the many requests for information that you might receive is not there as a form letter. You really will receive these requests, and we want you to know in advance so that you can provide this data. We don't want it to distract you from the work. We realize that the work is what's most important, but we did want you to have the heads up that we have these 3 different entities that may be requesting information, and we'll also share information about how you should structure your reporting so that when they go to the reports to gather data, we don't think that you're not doing something that you actually are doing and just haven't reported it. So more to come. This is just seed material, but thank you all very much for playing along, for letting Elias and I back in the classroom. At least we felt like we were, with this ability to give the quiz. And with that, let me hand things over to Andrea Venezia, Director for the Coordination Hub for Part 2. I guess we're technically on Part 3 now.
All right. Thank you so much, Tori and Elias, for the wealth of information that you shared. And congratulations to everyone participating in this on your awards. We're really thrilled to welcome you into the collective work of the Hub and the network. And we're really looking forward to being in community together and finding joy in our work collectively. I'm going to start and share the overall vision for the Hub at a high level, who we are, what we do, how we hope to support and contribute to your work. And we're basically an infrastructure to support you. I'll turn it over to my colleagues, Dr. Tamika McGlone at the College and Career Access Support Network at UC Berkeley, Dr. Erin Lynch at Quality Education for Minorities, and Kathy Booth at WestEd, then to frame up the core learning functions that they and their teams lead and support. I'm hoping there's time for us to use a Jamboard that we set up to learn from you all about a few issues. So I'm going to try to truncate my remarks a little bit so that we have time for that. So if you could go to the graphic, please. I want to describe the basic structure that we're putting into place right now with the network. So this is, as it says, a multi-cluster infrastructure that we hope provides coherence and connectivity in the network. So we're building off of a strong foundation from the past 5 years to create a new structure, and we're launching that new structure now. So the network is focused on creating and supporting community, as mentioned before, using the design elements of collaborative infrastructure to change systems that hold inequities in place in order to broaden participation in STEM, to ensure that STEM creates equitable opportunities for people to thrive, with a focus on supporting people and partnering and working with people who've been marginalized and minoritized by STEM. Our vision is that the network will be the go-to entity nationally for people to learn about strategies, practices, and models to create equitable opportunities for people to thrive in STEM fields. So there'll be 3 clusters within the network based on funding from NSF and on levels of engagement that projects have with systemic change. So the first cluster will be projects that are funded to do equity-driven systemic change, such as alliances and network connectors. We'll create with them what we're calling an incubator, like a lab, in which we'll experiment together around problems of practice and take collective action to change systems. So the hub will be a backbone for that first cluster to support the projects to take action together. We'll be using a liberatory design framework to drive our work to support you in learning, sharing, and applying learnings about how you're identifying and changing systems in your worlds that hold inequities in place, to discuss challenges and how to overcome them, to share promising practices, and to take that information to seek policy shifts. The second cluster will be for includes-funded projects that are not engaging in systemic change at scale, like DDLPs, conference grants, with supports on learning from the incubator and applying those learnings in the context of your own work. And the third cluster will be the rest of the national network to ensure that the national network remains open to all. All of the clusters will receive support and information from the core learning functions that my partners are going to share in a moment: shared measures, research, engagement, learning, and community building, and communications. Those are core learning areas that we provide. And for all three clusters, we'll help build capacity, develop and share knowledge, curate information, connect people and projects, and strive to meet you where you are in your work. The incubator will receive all of the things that I just talked about in this core learning areas, plus project management for incubator ideas, data management for learnings, and facilitation supports from the hub. Next slide, please. So over the first 5 years, we created a wealth of information that we are going to be curating for you on the website. One of the things that we do is we curate and we communicate learnings, we support engagement, we lead and support, and we're leading a learning agenda that we want to co-create with you all that will include research, qualitative and quantitative data, information sharing, and storytelling. And we want to use all this information to share discoveries, facilitate engagements, and catalyze action nationally, and looking at where we can make a dent in systems that are held in place by policies. And so we want to create strategic plans with you all and learn from you where we can then advance our knowledge into the field. Next slide, please. So the collaborative infrastructure piece, this is where there's been a wealth of work done over the past 5 years on these elements: the shared vision, partnerships, goals and metrics, leadership, communication, expansion, sustainability, and scale. We are curating our resources and we'll make them available for you on the website. And Mallory, if you could chat the website address, please. Please know the website is, you'll need to create an account and you'll need to remember your password and you'll need to log in. I think it's 4 or 5 days, if that lapses for 4 or 5 days. Thanks, Mallory. That's where you'll be able to get the resources that are available on that site. If you don't create an account, there is a firewall in terms of accessing resources. We're building a new website that will be open in 2024 that will be all access. So we're in the midst of changing the accessibility of information on the website to open access. If you have a question about accessing information on the website or anything else, please email us. And Mallory, if you could drop that email in the chat. Thank you, you did. Awesome, thank you. Next slide, please. So then moving into who we are. So these organizations comprise the hub, and we each focus on different areas. So at SRI, we support leadership and management functions and do visioning, strategic planning, and sustainability and communications work. WestEd leads the shared measurement work. Kazan at UC Berkeley leads network engagement, learning, and community building. And Quality Education for Minorities leads network expansion and diversification and research. So we will be working collectively and hopefully coherently around the new vision to support you with all of these different functions. So with that framing, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tamika McGlon to talk about network engagement, learning, and community building.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to go just as fast. Can we come out of the deck? All right, I wanted to see all these beautiful faces. I smell brilliance in the room. I wanted to start with this idea. Bell Hooks reminds us that the beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation, by each of us claiming the identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world. To form beloved community, we do not surrender ties to precious origins. Now, I wanted to take a breath. I know we only have 10 minutes left, but I'm going to go really fast. And then I'm going to hand it over to our valued colleague, Dr. Erin Lynch. Congratulations to everyone once again. It's a pleasure to welcome you all. My name is Tamika McGlon, and we at UC Berkeley's College and Career Alliance Support Network, pronounced Kazan, we're very grateful to join in this intriguing, inspiring, and courageous endeavor. We are based at the Lawrence Hall of Science, UC Berkeley's premier science center. Kazan will serve and lead network engagement, learning, and community building for the network as a whole, and for the incubator in partnership with SRI and our other valued partners in the hub. A few key design principles that anchor us in what we consider transformative engagement, learning, and community building centers network members' needs, desires, and wants, is human-centered and operationalizes liberatory design principles and practices. We will be active. We want it to be dynamic, joyful, and inclusive. Based in learning and improvement science methodology, we intend to optimize the power of authentic partnership. We intend to strengthen capacity across the network spectrum, recognizing that all of the partners have a range of different priorities within their representative NSF awards. We intend to produce programming that is structured, flexible, differentiated, and responsive. And as new kids on the block to this endeavor, we recognize that we want to contribute to the overall intention to execute high quality collaboration, equity-driven systems change, and ultimately broadening participation across the STEM landscape. We are excited about this adventure. We look forward to living into the Includes vision with you, and truly look forward to learning from, with you, and for you. I will now hand it over to our amazing colleague, Dr. Erin Lynch, so that we can move swiftly along to the next area of our work.
Thank you. I have no idea how I'm supposed to follow that up. You're over here quoting bell hooks and whatnot. Let me just bring us into the moment. I love it. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm super excited to see so many new faces and some faces with which I am quite familiar. Shout out to my partner in good, Tarek Tidwell over there. So very excited that we can support you in your endeavors. We at QEM, my executive director is also on the call, so I'll pass it to her for a hot second as well. But we at QEM are here to be able to serve you all in the network and helping to really capture the research needs that you have. All right. So part of what we learned in the first few years was that we really wanted to do a better job understanding what research questions we could be asking that would benefit the network in your work. And part of our diversification plan, our network diversification, we're taking a much more human-centered approach this next 5 years. So rather than doing the empirical parity, making sure everybody's hitting the metrics, that we have all the same types of different types of all the types of schools, we're really looking at which voices are we making sure that we're elevating so that we're diversifying the network through voice and not necessarily through metrics. So Mercy, my ED, anything you want to add? I just want to make sure you all know her name and her face because she is serving as the research lead. And so when her email comes across, her name comes across, I want you to know that she is the one who's really helping to guide that and to hear so that we can learn from you all. Mercy.
Hi everyone. I have nothing else to add. You have framed our research vision, and we are looking forward to working with you all as we identify the research agenda that we focus on as a network and make us all move forward with equity-centered and systems change work, and being able to amplify and increase visibility of voices and research that is going on that is centered on, making the changes that we want to see.
Thank you, Mercy. And now we will turn it over to our amazing colleagues over at Wested, Kathy.
Hello, everyone. So just to build on that theme, really our approach to shared measures is moving away from the idea of compliance reporting or what you're supposed to be doing in your evaluation, and really thinking about how do we know whether we are making progress down this path that we're on together. So the shared measures sort of focus on 4 general areas, and you'll have a chance to learn more about this because we'll be doing trainings and giving access to information. But basically, how do you know that you're engaging in collaborative infrastructure so that you are building those sort of enduring linkages so that we are forming a movement together? How do we operationalize systems change? It's a big idea. It's hard to know whether your individual effort is really making a difference. We give you some frameworks using FSG's water systems change approach to be able to figure out if you're really attending to all the different facets that you need to make sure that what you're doing now is sustainable beyond the grant period. And then finally, we look at some very specific student outcomes and employment outcomes, sort of look at whether our collective efforts are really leading to a change and who is participating and able to stay in STEM all the way through to the workforce. And then the 4th component, which ties directly back to my QAM colleagues, is the idea that we can't make sense of what to do next with numbers. And so we're really going to be focused on finding examples from within the whole network of entities that say, I think we're making some progress here on changing power dynamics, and gathering of stories to explain what that is really like. So all of you can learn from each other to do that hard work and see where you have common cause, even if you might be working with different populations on different moments in an arc of sort of college to career and beyond. So that's it for the shared measures team, and I will pass it back to Andrew.
All right, there is so much brilliance in this room, and it's such an honor to work with this team. It fills my heart to see all the new vision coming alive in this way. So thank you to all of you for explaining the work that you're doing. I know there's 3 minutes, so here's what I'd like to do. We would really like to learn from you and hear from you. And so I'm going to ask that we share a link to the Jamboard where we have 3 questions and that you can fill those out on your own time, because we want you to end on time today. So we'd like to know, what is your main area of focus? What questions you have for us as the hub? And what do you want to need from us, given what you currently know from us? And anything else you'd like to put in there, really, please. We'd love to hear from you. We'll take that information and use it to support our next steps together. So let's do that asynchronously. And then I'd like to wrap us up and hand us over to Tori for a formal wrap up. So what I'd like to do is mention that in the coming weeks, we're going to share information with you in batches. We found that complicated issues require complicated solutions and efforts. And so there's a lot of information, and we want to pace how we share so that you have the time and space to digest it and we can engage and support your learning. So Mallory's going to chat some examples of the kinds of resources that we'll share over time. We'll share research that Dr. Mercy Mugo, who you just met at QEM, has led, such as a brief entitled Demystifying Systems Change. We're going to share frameworks, such as the one that helps us structure part of our indicator system, the Waters of Systems Change by FSG that Kathy just mentioned. We'll share other shared measures related resources. We'll share links to podcasts, resources on collaborative infrastructure, information about how to use the website, information about open hours that we're going to hold in December to meet you more personally and talk about how we can support you more specifically. So please stay tuned for additional resources and next steps from us. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Tori.
I am typing in the chat. And so live here, I will let you know that my last 3 words are going to be "and other opportunities to engage." And you will see that come through in the chat, because my formal wrap up really is just to say thank you for being here. I know that we are out of time. I do see in the chat where the Jamboard is view only. So hopefully someone is toggling with settings so that we can receive your questions and be able to respond to those. But we definitely mentioned that this is a first, or actually we said this is a second or third. It's a next step in what will be ongoing engagement. So we look forward to receiving those questions, having an opportunity to answer those, and to engaging with you in all the different ways that you've heard about. Hopefully you know more about Includes after this session, and hopefully you're even more excited to engage. So thank you again. Can we get a quick confirmation? It's 4 o'clock. I'm trying hard to end right at 4, but can we get a confirmation if you all are now able to access the Jamboard to add desired information? Okay, I see a thumbs up. Perfect, wonderful. So we'll look forward to reviewing that and getting to know you and your work better in the future. Take care, everyone, and thank you.